So for me, being data-driven is very much about the business units of a retailer letting go of this idea that through the definition of more and more complex business rules, you can do all of your decisioning relating to recommendations or decisioning related to personalization. What we've seen, certainly in the airline industry over the last 5 to 10 years, is a lot of airlines try and do just that. So procuring or building very, very complicated platforms that are used for, let's say, booking engines or shopping engines or merchandising engines, and trying to configure all of their products and bundling and pricing and personalization rules into these platforms. What we've seen is that they have had limited success insofar as it becomes very difficult to keep building more and more complex rules so that the business units actually understand what they're doing and they can keep on controlling the decisioning that they're trying to affect, such as the product offering or the personalization. So the parallels, I guess, I see are with what the health industry tried to do 10 to 20 years ago, building very, very complicated expert system-based diagnosis platforms, where the objective was to help medical professionals like doctors create or do better diagnostics of patient problems. And so health companies and their technology partners built very, very complicated rules that took into account things like the patient's history, their presenting symptoms, to build recommendations on how to diagnose what was wrong with the patient. And eventually, a lot of these kinds of platforms failed because they were too expensive and complicated to maintain. So, pragmatically speaking, I think being data-driven in one sense means replacing this rules-based approach to your decisioning and replacing it with a process that relies more dynamically on data that's available, and replacing it with processes and algorithms that can leverage that data to derive insights without having to define your rules beforehand. So a really great example of a data-driven retailer today is Uber. A few years ago, Uber started to invest in a platform and project which they called Michelangelo. And the objective of Michelangelo was to democratize the data across Uber's business units, as well as the processes and machine learning algorithms that could operate on that data to help each business unit sell their products and services better. So an example of this is Uber Eats, for example. They leverage the Michelangelo platform to determine the time it might take for your meal to be ready. They leverage the platform to determine the best route that a rider might take from the restaurant to your house. And they leverage this platform to be able to make recommendations in terms of what restaurants and meals to offer to you when you open up the Uber Eats app. And so the reason that Uber did this was because they wanted to be able to allow every business unit to access data and learning that were generated by other business units and product teams, and make it very easy for product teams to build new and more sophisticated models to improve the way their products work.
So I totally agree with you, Dave. I think Uber, like many other of the digital native type of organizations, are great examples of data-driven organizations. Unfortunately, I think many of the airlines tend to be more traditional and they struggle a bit being as data-driven and leveraging data as effectively. And I think there are two main reasons why that is. Firstly, I think there are limited internal expertise and resources for data analysis, data mining, so all the activities necessary to implement systematic data-driven decision-making processes. And secondly, I think they also struggle because the decision-making process is only loosely related to the data analysis process. Data analysis is designed rather more to inform or advise the decision-making process, but it's not really driven by it. And I think a really data-driven organization has the decision-making power more or less in the hands of the people who are responsible for data analysis.
So I think the opportunities for airlines who are data-driven to deliver really interesting new use cases are significant, and I take a lot of inspiration from some of the larger OTAs that have been doing this for the last few years. So one really good example is hotels.com. So hotels.com have a challenge where they need to be able to market hundreds of thousands of hotels very quickly to the right consumer, and one of the main ways they do this is through their photography, the photo of the hotel, the lobby, the pool, whatever. So what hotels.com have built is a mechanism to personalize which photo you get shown for a particular hotel based on who you are. So if they recognize that you are maybe a business traveler, then they may focus on photos that emphasize the business aspects of the hotel versus, say, the spa or the pool. Another really good example of an OTA who is delivering really interesting use cases with their data-driven capabilities is Skyscanner. So Skyscanner have built a framework where they are able to introduce a new product, service, or component into their web experience, and through the framework actually optimize where and how that component gets displayed amongst all the other components on the screen. And it's data-driven insofar as the framework will actually work out the best place to put that component on the screen based on who the particular customer is, and not necessarily knowing their name or their age or things like that, but just their context. So what routes are they booking, what dates are they trying to book, what destination are they trying to go to, what other products are they adding to their cart. And so I think these use cases are just some examples of very sophisticated capabilities you couldn't achieve with a rules engine. And I think airlines have a great opportunity to leverage some of those insights in their own digital touchpoints.